talked to a few people when I'm pitching Otto and saying, guys, I think that there's something here, especially with the Ripple custody announcement about how you guys are the first ones that are integrated with it. But the response that I've gotten twice now, and I thought was a little strange, is they didn't think that the Ripple custody component was that big of a deal. Just, I'm not sure if they're not familiar with custody or just didn't really think that was important at all. So if somebody says to you, well, Ripple custody, yeah, that's not being important or associated with that, what would be your response?
Yeah, so Ripple custody allows all the assets. So most assets get stolen off exchanges when someone discloses their personal information. They don't get stolen off exchanges by hackers because they can't, because they use a protocol-driven custody solution, not smart contracts that are exposed to every single runtime upgrade of the chain, right? All the bridges have been exploited. Bridges are really an insecure way to hold a huge amount of money cross-chain. And so what Ripple custody does is it gives us that protocol, but what Otto does is it integrates it into so that you've got your own keys. You don't end up in that situation of not your keys, not your coin. The big benefit of the partnership with Ripple, so that their tech's good, and Medico developed that tech, but the big part of it is all their products are built into the Ripple custody. And because all their products are built into it, it enables us to, without going outside of your custody, without going and interacting with third-party providers and their code and their risks. We have the Ripple team providing products like staking for multi-chain staking, like payments, and that's a really big one. So the staking and the payment services that Ripple's really built an amazing product around are all accessed from within the custody solution, which makes Otto in a really advantageous position. A normal individual, you and me, could never afford to have our assets looked after in custody.
That's okay. So that's a great breakdown of what that is. It makes a lot more sense for myself, but for people that are watching right now, for hearing about Otto for the first time, what is Otto? And you've used the term of it being the first of its kind. Can you explain what that is and why it's important?
Yeah. So what Otto is an ability to have a closed blockchain where you have your own keys, but your assets are secure. The underlying assets are secure while you're interacting on the chain. So it gives that break between what a exchange does, a centralized exchange does, which they take your coins, but they give you a logical balance in their software. But that's not a blockchain. So it makes the centralized exchange side of it, Otto makes that into a blockchain. So you can see on both sides, and you can reconcile one-to-one where your underlying assets went, and that balance exists. So it gives a lot of confidence. The second thing is it allows for compliance things, like you have to bring assets on or take assets off the Otto blockchain has to be done through a KYC AML account. But that actually is tied to your keys, so not to your personality. Nowhere on the blockchain, and no storage or link to the blockchain is your personal information. So once they're your keys, you've proven that they're your keys and you've claimed ownership of them, but you're not exposing your person with doing that. So it gives that safety that comes from people not being able to trace you, because in the digital finance world, people tracing you and targeting you is basically how they get your money. So it gives you that anonymity that's really important for people's safety, but it gives you the confidence that you're only interacting, and your assets are only interacting with other people who are genuine individuals or genuine businesses that have gone through that same AML, KYC, and CFT process to get on board.
So the KYC, there's been some questions that popped up in the Futureverse Discord, and shout out Icy Amphibian, who was one of them. And Aaron popped by to have a conversation, just answering some general questions. And the question was asking about AI agents and if they'd be able to operate on Otto at all. And Aaron responded saying that KYA, or I think that's Know Your Asset, is part of Otto's thinking. So hearing that, do you have any thoughts on it, or can you give any perspective on AI agents and Otto Blockchain if that's going to be a thing?
Yep. So one of the great things about the freedom of having the gateway to the walled garden, which is your asset onboarding process, which is by far the most complicated thing, because what we're doing is making every chain interact with Otto. And but one of the big advantages is once your assets are on Otto, that you can be free, just like as in an open blockchain within Otto. And so you can assign assets to an agent within Otto, and that agent can freely use those assets. And everyone else on the chain is will be comfortable interacting with those assets, because the underlying, you know, to withdraw your money from the chain and to add money to the chain, we know it came from a safe place, or a you know a you know no we have a funny word called counterparty risk. So counterparty risk is when you invest some of your money with, and a criminal invests some of their money in an organization. And because that criminal invested their money in that organization, your money gets seized as well by the authorities. So avoiding counterparty risk is extremely important for funds managers, because they can't let their clients' money get mingled or commingled with criminals. Yeah.
Well,
So that's
I,
the big thing that finance managers are looking for us to solve for them.
well, that sounds massive that you're having a a solvable solution for a rather big problem. And with that perspective and looking at the general crypto landscape, I mean, we've got Brad Garlinghouse, who's now looking or being shown in photos with the incoming US administration. We have just the general crypto sentiment completely changing, and it seems like the landscape is opening up massively, where before crypto's kind of this eerie place, and like the Lion King when they say, oh, that's, the Pride Lands, we don't go there kind of deal. But now it feels like it's opening up and everybody's going to want to be associated within crypto. But as you're mentioning, these big players are wanting to come into the space and transact in a safe and compliant area. But I guess my question is, when you look at the crypto landscape in 2025, how big of a shift are you kind of expecting? And do you have any thoughts on just the way that things seem like they're opening up more?
Opening up and also getting more oversight. There is a number of inter-government, inter-country agreements coming into place in 2026. And a lot of crypto organizations are preparing for that this year. Our advantage is that since I started building Otto in 2021, we had a really clear idea that we wanted to make it a really responsible place for genuine investments. One of the big things that we'll see is that service providers will have a lot more requirements of them. So in the past, in the USA, basically the SEC wouldn't give you approval to launch a crypto product. You could fill out the forms, and then they would give you no answer, and then you'd launch your product, and they would sue you. And that was the mode that they were under. So for us, we knew that was going to come, that service providers needed to be responsible. And what happened in open blockchains is that scammers just forked your code and built another product with a fatal flaw in it, and or some sort of malicious function in it that allowed them to take your money, and that happened over and over and over again in DeFi. With Otto, we have a special process, that includes the community for bringing a product on board, and that requires a legal assessment. So we call it by a lawyer. So you have to submit a legal assessment of the product that you're giving and what it classes as. You need to register yourself as a provider with Otto, and then your code, because it's not a open blockchain, your code has to be audited by a third party, and it's the same as what an exchange would get you to do it before listing your coin. They would ask for, your legal standing and your code audits from these world-leading auditors. And then once that's provided, we actually give all that information to the community to vote whether that product can be launched on the chain. So it means that there's a decentralized governance of it, which means, it's not one person's, not one person can agree to the code being put up. So meeting those three standards will sort of make only genuine products relevant for the chain. It won't be those fly by night, low quality. It may be inventive. It may not be, it's not a huge cost to entry. It's not a huge barrier to entry. It may be really innovative, but it's not going to be, those lucky coins or whatever, meme coins or things like that seem to take up the low effort space. They should be decent products.
So with Otto being interoperable with Ripple custody, it feels like also there's a lot of other chains that Otto can connect to. Asset onboarding is something that's going to be coming, where obviously a bunch of different crypto assets can come on board. Now, on the root network side of things, I'm assuming that that's also interoperable with Otto. So would we look at Otto kind of being a bridge between potentially root and Ripple custody, or potentially any other ecosystem and Ripple custody that gets onboarded through Otto, or how should we look at that?
Yeah, we have an amazing infrastructure with the Ripple custody solution, and our infrastructure that we're building and working with Ripple on actually enables a domain for the root network, and because the domain for the root network, so there's three parts of the domain at the moment. So there's three domains. One is the Otto, which is that walled garden. Then you have the root network, which is, as we know, it's an open blockchain and doesn't require that same level of investment scrutiny. And then you have a commercial custody product where businesses can hold crypto assets in custody at a more affordable price than what it would be for them to set up custody themselves. So those are the three domains. They all connected by the Ripple products that are available on there. So what you may see coming from them is different relevant interactions. For example, a business that has custody of assets may want exposure to some financial products that are on Otto. So that would be available for them without in a cross-chain, in a sort of an easy product way. Just like it's easy for you to buy insurance from your bank, for example. But the bank's not the insurance company, but you just click a button and suddenly you've got it. Yeah. So, and then on the root side of things, for example, there may be something that some vendors that needs to ensure that the money that they're receiving is KYC. So, and so they may want payments to go through an Otto account, or they may want an attestation on the root network that that account on the root network has an Otto account. And so that's our attestation protocol, allows them to know this is a genuine individual who's passed these AML KYC processes. They don't have to disclose who they are, but we know that their money is genuine, right? And it allows payment. So you could be paying from an Otto account or just attest it to your root account for a payment solution. And that could make things a lot cheaper for them to offer digital products rather than having that huge overhead at the moment. So you may find you've seen it with Yuga, you've seen it with other sort of big brands in the Web3 space where they collect your KYC data constantly, and you're giving it to a different third party so that they can do their transactions, legally. So that sort of thing can be covered just by attestation, which is an amazing thing and an enabler, and it reduces the overhead cost and administration of the companies that are offering those payments, that are taking those payments.
Well, when you talk about Ripple custody, I don't know if everybody would be familiar with what is on Ripple custody apart from Otto Blockchain. So speaking, I guess, for myself here, I know that Otto Blockchain is associated with Ripple custody, but what are some other things that are on there? Is it just you guys right now, or what's kind of the pace of products getting onboarded or brought to Ripple custody?
If you wanted to do a bit of research on Metaco, they are quite well established in their technology because it's a standalone infrastructure per domain. It's really well received by some major financial companies around the world. I really don't have a briefing or a remit from Ripple to speak officially about their product, but that was a thing that attracted me to it at the beginning, was to talk about the banks that are using it and the major financial companies that I know. They're not crypto companies. They're not small family offices. The enterprise grade, and that's what really drew me to them, especially because it means it's scalable.
And for Otto, I know that you guys have had or talked about the asset onboarding starting to happen towards the end of January and onwards from the December Otto Spaces, which is a great listen. I'll throw that down in the description below for anybody that wants to go back and listen to that one. But for like the XRPL wallets or other ecosystems, how does it look for bringing in those on wallet binding? Are those all available in Otto right now, or is this something that kind of slowly happens over this year and next?
We're getting pretty close. We've got a few components that we're creating, so a few pieces of the infrastructure that we're creating, and we're working with Ripple's engineers to do that as well. So it could actually improve the product for all the other users out there that are using Ripple custody. Those things are a blockchain monitoring service, which basically sees something happen watches the custody wallets and provides notifications on demand back to the blockchain and hashes them on the chain. So there's a record of changes in Ripple custody on a blockchain, between blockchains. So something happens on Ethereum, it's not natural for a blockchain like, let's say, the root network to know what happened on Ethereum. But if something happened on an Ethereum account in the Ripple custody solution, the root blockchain may need to know that it happened, and having a really reliable service in the middle to write that onto the chain so it's accessible within the root blockchain of what happened is a massive advantage for interoperability. So that's one of the components that we're building. The second component is a gas station. So Otto needs a gas station because you'll be able to deposit assets from any blockchain into Otto. And so when you deposit those assets, we need to efficiently move those assets into secure custody. And that feeding your accounts, your deposit accounts with gas and doing that, that's a component that we need to do. It's something that you'll see happen on exchanges when you do that. With us, because that's a key part of Otto's story, is that you'll be able to see that your assets exist and be able to one-to-one balance them to what's held in custody. So that gas station is a real key part, and making that super cheap and efficient is just going to make it more, available for everyone. Keep our fees down.
Yeah, the insights on this have been awesome, and I appreciate you taking the time for this. And I know we're getting close to wrapping up here, so there's kind of two final things. One, I just want to open the floor. If there's anything you'd want to touch on that we haven't yet, would love to hear anything from that. But also, if somebody's listening and they're wanting to get involved with Otto and see what it's like as it's been growing, how do you get onboarded to Otto right now?
I think the best way is to go to our Discord and to start learning. We've got a Otto University module, which is really exciting. You can access it actually through the intercom link on our Otto website as well. So it's all been integrated into the knowledge articles within the intercom link. Talk to the people in Discord. Like, most of the people there have been there for a long time, and they're only there because they really support us and want us to succeed. And they're usually really, really, really straight up. They're really honest. They have a lot of criticism of us, but they're still there, and they want to see this succeed. So they'll give you a straight up answer on what they think. This is it's not a good product to speculate on. It's a good product to see where the future of, sort of responsible investing on the blockchain and how that's going to be possible. And it solves a lot of those real problems that are serious problems if this is actually going to work for everyone. Not everyone needs a investment blockchain, but without it, those businesses being excluded from it means that there's less available for everyone else who's just a consumer. So we think it'll grow the space. Learn first. Go through the process of setting up an account. You'll get 10 Otto when you set up the account, which is enough to do some transactions. Ask people what they think, and get used to the interface. And everything you do, just go slowly, learn, don't spend a lot of money. But once products are there, I really think we're going to see some great opportunities to participate in Web3 in a way that you've never been able to before.